Arctic Star Exploration, operated by a team of proven mine finders, is focused on diamonds in Finland and the Northwest Territories of Canada. Work programs are underway in Finland and planned for Canada this summer. Arctic Star trades on the TSX Venture Exchange symbol ADD, on Frankfurt symbol 82A1, and the OTCQB symbol AESDZF. Please visit our website arcticstar.ca or call us at 604-689-1799.
Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Jordan Bateman, Communications Director for the Independent Contractors and Business Association. His website, icba.ca. Welcome back to the show, Jordan.
Thanks for having me, Jim.
The Mayor's Transit Council's added another cost for business. What is it?
Yeah, another cost for business, another cost for all of us. So the Horgan government, it's kind of a little surprise before the long weekend, announced that they would allow TransLink to increase their gas tax from 17 cents a liter to 18.5 cents a liter if the TransLink mayors would like to. Not surprisingly, within hours, the TransLink mayor said, yes, thank you very much. We would like to increase that gas tax and give more money to TransLink. So this will take effect, this cent-and-a-half increase, on April 1st. Also, at that time, will be another 1.1 cent increase in the carbon tax. So we're about to get hit with another 2.6 cents per liter tax, furthering our lead as the highest gas tax jurisdiction in North America. We're now closing in on 55 cents a liter in gas tax. So think about that the next time you go to the pump, and thank John Horgan and the TransLink mayors for their for their willingness to drive up the cost of absolutely everything in this province that moves by car at some point.
Now, could city halls have cut back their costs a little bit to cover that much of an increase so that they would have the money for transit?
Oh, absolutely. So the funny thing is this whole gas tax is to fill a shortfall of about $30 million a year. Well, $30 million, frankly, with the 21 city halls, TransLink, and Metro Vancouver's combined multi-billion-dollar budget, $30 million is like a rounding error for these guys. So if they wanted to reprioritize some spending, they could have done that. They could reprioritize some enhanced revenues from growth to do it. There was lots of options for them. But, of course, they took the laziest one, which is just hike the taxes. Now, what's amusing is yesterday you had John Horgan saying, "Whoa, we didn't raise the gas tax. The TransLink mayors are doing it." And, of course, the TransLink mayors are saying, "Oh, John Horgan said we could raise the gas tax. We're not doing it. We're just doing what John Horgan told us to do." So, different player. It's not Christy Clark. It's John Horgan in charge now, but the same blame game going on. Look, they're both to blame. One could not have done it without the other. So John Horgan and the TransLink mayors, you get the big raspberry from us as far as making us pay higher gas prices.
Now, the Trucking Association told me it's something so true. Everything that you have in your possessions was on a truck at some point. What kind of a cost is this going to be for people who have to transport goods?
Yeah, everything that you own has been on a truck at some point. And then everything that you own that's been built by someone has been on a truck at some point. All of it moved by gasoline. So yeah, when you increase the cost of gasoline, not surprisingly, you increase the cost of groceries, you increase the cost of consumer electronics and goods, you increase the cost of construction. It ripples through the entire economy. In fact, you actually increase the cost of property taxes too, because municipalities have huge fleets. Think of your garbage trucks, think of your operations, your parks trucks, all the different vehicles that a municipality owns. They're not powered by unicorn dust or electricity. They're powered by good old-fashioned gasoline or diesel. So all those costs go up as well. This will have a ripple effect through the economy, as it always does, but the mayors always ignore the what's happening down the road in order to have the quick fix up front.
Somebody has never explained to me how a carbon tax can stop volcanoes from erupting, and one day of Kilauea wipes out 10 years of carbon tax credits. So how is this carbon tax going to make our planet any different?
Well, it won't, and at least the Liberals made the carbon tax sort of revenue neutral. There was at least some tax cuts attached to it. Now, in later years, the Liberals kind of strayed from that a bit and used it for corporate welfare, but still the money wasn't just staying in government coffers, it was going somewhere. Now the NDP have gotten rid of that. They've gotten rid of the carbon tax freeze the Liberals brought in, and they keep ramping it up. But you're right, it's not going to do anything. I'm very curious to see how Doug Ford navigates the Justin Trudeau carbon tax issues in Ontario. I know Manitoba, Saskatchewan are already unhappy with the idea of carbon tax. New Brunswick was rebelling at one point. So, is there a carbon tax rebellion coming across the country? And if, BC ends up being the only one with a carbon tax again, will British Columbians finally say after 10 years of having a tax, forget it, failed experiment, no one else is following us, it's time to do something else?
Well, I know the idea of the tax is to push you into alternative stuff. How do you take your industrial goods to build an apartment building on the SkyTrain?
Well, exactly. This is for our contractors, the most frustrating part, right, is, it's not like we can, if you're a plumber, you can put your tools on the SkyTrain and take it. I mean, these tools are heavy, the materials are heavy, they're bulky, this is why you see, so many trucks and vans running around the Lower Mainland in British Columbia transporting goods and workers. You just don't have that option. So, yeah, it's unfair to the people who are, to the working man and woman, but, that's kind of the way government goes. They're so determined to socially engineer us into their preferred outcomes that they don't realize that it's just impractical, unfair, and an example of huge government overreach.
And, of course, Mayor Robertson in Vancouver would like you to take that steel pipe and electrical wire on your bicycle.
Yeah, what's the problem? Just carry a few armloads of rebar on top of your bike. That's no problem. Yeah, it's silly. It's unfair. It's another tax on drivers who are already carrying a huge load in this province. Yeah, it really does frustrate us because, like I said, it does raise the cost of everything. It's one of these taxes that ripples through the economy in a negative way, and we need a government to stand up and say, forget it. This is getting crazy. 55 cents a liter is more than enough in gas taxes. Puts us number one in the entire North America. And I just want to point out, for those of us, like I live south of the Fraser, I will admit I've gone down to the United States from time to time to buy cheaper gas. I've gone to Abbotsford to get away from the TransLink tax to save 10 or 12 cents a liter. The 95% of the cost difference between gasoline in British Columbia or in Lower Mainland and gasoline across the line in Blaine or Linden or Sumas or wherever you go is taxes. That is the difference that the tax makes. So when people say, it's the gas companies gouging, no, it's the gas companies struggling with, not enough supply to meet the demand, which again is another problem created by John Horgan, or certainly not solved by John Horgan and not addressed by John Horgan. In fact, he's doing the opposite, trying to make it worse. You have that supply problem, and then you have the tax problem, both of which John Horgan could fix if he would just shut up, quit opposing Kinder Morgan, let that project go through, and if he could control his voracious appetite for taxes.
Horgan claims that having a second pipeline wouldn't lower gasoline prices because the new pipeline would only carry oil from Alberta. But on the other hand, that would free up the old pipeline to carry refined gasoline from Edmonton, wouldn't it?
Precisely. So John Horgan is spinning like mad, hoping that people aren't smart enough to actually understand supply and demand and what's going on. You're right, this would be the second pipeline on that route. If you move bitumen into that second new pipeline, and it's not always going to be bitumen. What people don't understand about pipelines is it's not this steady flow of one product, 24/7, 365. You ship certain things at certain times. So you can put more refined gasoline through that pipe if the Lower Mainland needs it. You can, there's that opportunity, there's that flexibility. We don't have it now. John Horgan wants to stop it. In fact, John Horgan doesn't even want to allow, repairs on the current gas pipeline, which would just further exacerbate the crisis. So, yeah, it's a big gas spin, a big ass lie, frankly, by John Horgan, claiming that pipelines won't actually help the problem.
We'll have more with Jordan Bateman right after the break.
Aben Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia, Saskatchewan, and the Yukon. Trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the pink symbol ABN AF.
surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines. Avon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avonresources.com.
Vatic Ventures Corp. is a potash exploration company focused on the Korat Basin in Thailand, the world's largest undeveloped potash resource. Vatic's management has extensive potash exploration and development experience in Thailand. Vatic will have marketing advantage compared to Western producers. Drill program commences this spring. Vatic trades on the TSX Venture, symbol VCV, and on Frankfurt, symbol V8V2. Visit our website, vaticventures.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Jordan Bateman. Speaking of the Kinder Morgan pipeline, which is now the Canadian pipeline, maybe, I guess, is Kinder Morgan still going to build it, but be assured that everything's going to go okay by the federal government?
Kinder Morgan's still building it. That team that, was already there is still in place, but now their shareholder is, the federal government. Their shareholder is not, on the stock exchange. So that's really the big difference. The construction schedule looks great. They have, they're expecting to get in the ground in certain spots between Alberta and BC by the end of this month. We're going to hold them to that schedule because every day they delay is another day that taxpayers see their profit eaten into. So they have not just the corporate need to do it. There's a real moral need to get this built because taxpayer money is on the line, which I suspect will bring us to a certain dozen dangling dingle dorks off the Ironworkers Bridge.
Yes, the Iron Workers Memorial Bridge. We had several people from Greenpeace dangling down. Is it true Greenpeace is not a charity but a for-profit organization now?
I don't know. I'm not sure about that, but here's the funny thing. Their world headquarters, I believe, is in Stockholm. If you check the oil tanker map, where all the oil tankers are in the world, you'll find dozens and dozens and dozens of oil tankers going right past their office, right past their city. No protest there, but by gum, we're going to protest that one single extra tanker a day that's going to come through out of Kinder Morgan if this pipeline's built. It's hypocritical. The truth is they get money from United States donors who are keeping them afloat financially, and that's why they do crazy things like this. And in fact, they were promoting, telling the stories online of some of these brave danglers, including one woman who was from Washington State, which just reinforces the fact that this is actually, about American control of resources in North America and nothing to do with the oil sands itself.
They're also, apparently, the Mounties took them down the other day, and that meant, of course, extra police costs for local taxpayers again. They've been charged with obstructing marine traffic, which is a federal offense and can be pretty serious. Yeah.
Well, I hope they throw the book of these guys. And frankly, it should be like a search and rescue when people go out of bounds and they get charged for how much it costs to rescue them. The same thing should happen here. Like, we should be going after them under, civil forfeiture or something to that effect. Like, let's find a way to recoup some of this money. I feel for the families of the police officers, right? So, these are highly trained RCMP officers. I know they do this professionally, but still, you step out onto that bridge, you're taking a major risk. And, these guys have, families, they have kids, they have, husbands and wives. Like, this is not typical police work. This is dangerous police work. And Greenpeace put them in that position. And just, thank God no one was hurt. Thank God none of these police officers were hurt enforcing the law. And what was really done, great, they delayed a tanker by one day, and they delayed shipments of gasoline to Vancouver Island. Like, congratulations, you're going to bring Vancouver Island to its knees without gasoline. Like, Greenpeace is just, they're a farce. It's almost ridiculous that anyone pays them any attention anymore. They should be completely ashamed of themselves.
Kinder Morgan released a 6-month construction schedule. What does that mean to your members?
It means work, which is great. So, we have had companies and members who've been planning to work on this for years now. They've gone through all the bidding process. They operate in good faith with Kinder Morgan and now I guess with the Canadian government overseeing it. And for them, it means jobs. It means, work digging holes. It means work putting the pipe in, putting rebar in, all those things that you need in order to make this pipeline happen. Lots of construction work, and not just short-term work. I mean, this is a huge project, and some of these people will be working for a couple of years on it. That is a long time on a construction project. Because, of course, construction, you build something until it's done, and then you got to build something else. But this is good, steady construction work for a long period of time.
Do we have enough skilled labor to look after the construction of the pipeline, plus the SkyTrain construction that they plan for Vancouver and Surrey?
Yeah, so on the pipeline, they've sourced some interesting new pockets of workers. So a lot of these companies are working with First Nations groups. In fact, a lot of First Nations companies are the ones doing the construction. And that's great because you're bringing in a new generation of First Nations worker into construction, into the trades. We're excited about that. We think that's going to be a very positive thing because, we think once they start, once they finish this project, they'll move on to other construction projects. And this could actually be a big boon for the workforce. On SkyTrain and light rail, they're going to have to source workers. It'll be interesting to see how much they have to pay to compete in the Lower Mainland market. But look, there's not going to be any shortage of companies bidding on the work. Again, it's a huge project, steady work for a number of years. Backstopped by tax dollars, so you know that it's going to continue on no matter what nonsense the politicians kind of bring upon us. It's going to happen. The bigger cost drivers, frankly, the big problem in labor and on the TransLink projects is that the provincial government may force them to go with only building trades union members, which is only about 15% of all the construction workers in the province belong to a traditional building trades union. If they tilt the playing field in the bids and force people to, go to this, or force the TransLink to take workers only from building trades unions, they are going to drive up their own costs substantially. You just can't, hand off that kind of work to a tiny part of the industry and not expect it to cost more. And then that combined with the steel tariffs, which are going to be another major problem for TransLink. I'm not confident TransLink can bring these projects in on budget. And it's not because of a labor shortage, it's because of the way the NDP are going to force them to hire people and because of these steel tariffs.
What is the effect of the tariffs on the construction industry?
Well, it's going to be bad. It's going to be more expensive to source steel, especially rebar. And worse, it's going to, there could be major shortages. So, you're talking about, you need incredible amounts of steel rebar to do something like SkyTrain, and to do tunnels and things like that. Because all that concrete you see, of course, is reinforced by steel rebar inside of it. And it's not going to be cheap. 25 to 40% cost increases, we think, based on the tariffs, not just the tariffs slapped on by Donald Trump, but it looks like the Trudeau government's going to it's going to put tariffs on steel from other countries into Canada in order to try to help the eastern steel mills out. The problem with that is it costs 4 times more to transport steel from the east as it does from Asia for British Columbia. So, these are huge cost drivers. And, if I was John Horgan, well, first of all, I wouldn't be doing dumb things like raising gas taxes. But, if you're John Horgan, you should be thinking night and day about how you're going to get BC exempted from the steel tariffs that Justin Trudeau wants to put on other countries, simply because it's going to drive every project you want to do over budget. If you can't bring in steel from Asia, from Turkey, without a big Canadian tariff on it, you're talking about being not just millions of dollars over budget, but maybe $1 billion over budget on some of these larger projects.
We'll have more with Jordan Bateman right after this.
I'm Kelly Jennings, CEO of PowerBand Solutions. PowerBand is a cloud-based provider of auction, inventory, and finance solutions that make buying, selling, and financing vehicles more efficient. PowerBand Solutions trades on the TSX Venture Exchange symbol PBX and on the OTCQB symbol PWWPF and on Frankfurt symbol 1ZV. For more information, please visit us at powerbandsolutions.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Jordan Bateman. Jordan, the BC government says it's going to give some tax breaks now to the health employer tax, which will replace the medical services premiums that people pay. Of course, for 1 year, they'll be collecting from both you, the private citizen, and from businesses for it. So a nice little bonus for them. But these breaks, will they be for business as well?
No, there's no help at all for businesses. In fact, the double dip continues. The high rates continue. No help for business whatsoever. They did exempt their own groups like school boards, hospitals, things like that, universities. The problem is they did not exempt local governments, so city halls are going to have to pay too. So, in fact, it's almost a triple hit for businesses next year. You know, not only do you, for many businesses, do you have to pay the MSP on behalf of your employees, you have to pay the new employer health tax on top of that, and you're going to have to pay higher property taxes to cover the city hall share. It's a triple whammy. It's a perplexing decision by Carol James, who still claims that somehow she's cutting taxes when really what she's doing is double dipping and then bringing in a payroll tax, which is one of the worst ways to, it just curbs job creation because it makes it more expensive to employ people.
The Independent Contractors and Business Association, what's its position on the proposed changes to BC's voting system? There's a referendum on it this fall.
Yeah, we oppose Prop Rep, and here's why. You know, ICBA, we live to build stuff. And building stuff takes strong, stable majority governments, either stripe. Like, you know, there have been NDP governments, there have been BC Liberal, SoCred governments. You need to have that steady hand on the steering wheel of a province to make sure that, you know, there's economic prosperity, growth, stability to attract investment. BC, maybe more than any other province in Canada, is reliant on investment from outside of our borders to come to create jobs, to do the big projects. That WAC Bennett and Bill Bennett, and, like, just think of the big projects, right? You know, it doesn't even have to be big building projects, but think of like what Davy Barrett did with bringing in ICBC and the Agricultural Land Reserve. You're never going to have that again if you have coalition governments, because everyone will be pandering to the smallest partner to try to hold them in, and those big ideas will fade away. So we oppose Prop Rep, and we've gone a step further. You know, we've actually filed a case in BC Supreme Court calling on the court to declare this whole process unconstitutional. We think it's unfair. We think that the process is rushed. We don't think it abides by the Clarity Act and some of the Canadian Supreme Court principles around changing the Constitution, changing the way people vote, changing the makeup of the democracy. We think that they're unfairly banning third parties from participating in the campaign for too long a period. We're actually kind of attacking on 3 or 4 different points. And we're hopeful that the Supreme Court will agree to expedite our hearing as soon as this month, so we can see if these proposed changes David Eby wants to bring in are even constitutional. We don't believe they are.
Jordan, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thanks for having me.
My guest has been Jordan Bateman, Communications Director for the Independent Contractors and Business Association. Their website, icba.ca. If you have any questions for our show, you can send them to info@howstreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of Howe Street Media Incorporated.